Have you ever felt weak, afraid, and not good enough? This is the story of a young man just like that. Someone once called useless. Someone who once wanted to give up on life. But in just 3 days, he did something no one expected. He overcame his own fears. No miracles, no magic, just the courage to change. If you've ever doubted yourself, this video will touch your heart. Watch until the end. Perhaps you'll find yourself in this story. Once upon a time in a bustling town, there lived a merchant who made a living selling salt. He wasn't wealthy, but he was diligent and honest. Beside his capable wife, he had 2 sons, each as different as night and day. The younger son was smart, quick-witted, and outgoing, loved by everyone for his cheerful nature. In contrast, the elder son was reserved, quiet, and often kept his eyes down when speaking to others. Although kind-hearted by nature, the elder son was often mistaken for being slow simply because he didn't know how to express himself. People in the village whispered behind his back. Some even took advantage of his innocence to mock or exploit him. Yet he never responded, never complained. Even his father, a man who loved his family, couldn't hide his disappointment at his eldest son's lack of progress. Harsh words like silent knives buried deep into the heart of the sensitive boy. He didn't understand why he was different, and that very difference slowly made him retreat into himself, like a grain of salt dissolving silently in water, unnoticed by the world. In his father's eyes, he was weak. But behind that silence was a soul struggling between fear and the longing to be seen. As time passed, the elder son grew up, but his timidity clung to him like a shadow. In class, he sat quietly like a dry leaf blown by the wind, too afraid even to raise his hand. During exams, his hands trembled so much that the knowledge he'd studied for a month vanished like smoke. It wasn't a lack of intelligence, but fear of failure that overwhelmed him. When he came of age, his father, tired from the burden of work, entrusted him with a small part of the family business. Though he yearned to prove himself, every interaction with customers ended the same: a timid voice, eyes that couldn't meet theirs. Sharp-witted people quickly noticed and didn't hesitate to take advantage. Then one day, tragedy struck. While the father was away, a group of strangers came to the store, claiming the father had sent them to collect goods. The young man hesitated, too unsure to question them. When the father returned to find the store empty, his rage exploded like fire. "Useless fool! You've cost me everything!" The words struck like lightning, sending the boy into the depths of despair. He began to believe that he didn't deserve to exist. In utter hopelessness, he quietly walked to the riverside where cold waves churned like the turmoil in his heart. The wind tousled his hair, carrying his father's scolding, the scornful looks of others, and the suffocating weight of failure. He didn't cry, but his eyes held a sky that had fallen apart. If I disappeared, maybe everyone would be better off, he thought, inching closer to the water's edge. At that moment, a strong hand pulled him back. It was a young man with calm eyes and a peaceful presence. Without asking too many questions, he simply said, "You're still alive, which means you still have a chance." The boy burst into tears, pouring out his heart, his weakness, loneliness, and the crushing feeling of being useless. The young man didn't laugh or pity him. He simply replied, "If you truly want to change, follow me. There's someone who can show you the way." In that fleeting moment, at the edge of life and death, a door of hope opened. The young man led him deep into the forest, to a quiet sanctuary beneath an ancient tree, where a wise sage was meditating. With trembling legs and a heavy heart, the boy knelt down and shared all his pain, as if shedding a lifetime of sorrow. The sage didn't blame him or ask too much, only looked at him kindly and said, "If you truly wish to change your fate, complete the 3 tasks I give you. Only by overcoming yourself can you find the light." On the first day, the master gave him a task that seemed simple. Go to town and talk to 10 strangers, ask them about their lives. Hesitant at first, he remembered the master's words and set off. Each sentence drained him, but strangely, by the third or fourth person, he began to breathe easier. Some people were indifferent, a few were annoyed, but others smiled and shared their stories. That evening, for the first time in his life, he felt proud. He had done something he used to always avoid. On the second day, the master gave him a harder task. Teach 10 children about the importance of water. He panicked. I don't know enough to teach anyone. But the master only smiled. Just share what you do know. In front of the children, he stammered, sweat pouring like rain. But with sincerity, he spoke of water, the river that once saved him, the water that cooked his meals, the refreshing first rains. The children listened intently. At the end of the lesson, he no longer wanted to run away. The next day, he voluntarily taught the same lesson again, this time with a strong and steady voice. On the third day, the master gave him the hardest task: return home and ask his father for forgiveness. He was silent for a long time, heart clenched tight. But remembering the master's eyes, the feeling of living truly, he nodded. Back home, he bowed before the father he once feared and simply said, "I'm sorry. Please give me another chance." And for the first time, the father did not scold. He looked at his son with different eyes, eyes of recognition. When the boy returned to the small sanctuary beneath the old tree, his heart full of gratitude, the sage was waiting. He knelt down and pleaded, "Master, please tell me the secret to changing one's life." The sage gently smiled, eyes as vast and kind as the ocean. "You already found the answer. You just didn't realize it yet," he said. "Over the past 3 days, you weren't fighting others. You were fighting yourself. Your fear, your self-doubt, the limits you once believed were unchangeable. And you won." He continued, his voice as warm as a mountain stream. "Shyness isn't your greatest enemy. Fear is the chain that bound you. The world doesn't see you as you think. It sees you through the way you choose to present yourself. If you believe you're weak, others will believe it too. But when you dare to stand, to speak, to make mistakes and learn from them, you become stronger than you ever imagined." The boy bowed his head, tears falling onto hands that had toughened from effort. From that day on, he was no longer the same. A truth had taken root in his heart. Believing in yourself is the beginning of all miracles. Years passed since the young man left the sanctuary, carrying in his heart the flame lit during those difficult days and the words of the sage. He didn't become great overnight, but step by step, he rebuilt the store, earned his customers' trust, and most importantly, rebuilt himself. His father, now aged, was no longer the fiery man of the past. Silently, he watched his son's journey, and in those quiet glances, there was pride too deep to be spoken. The once timid boy was now a respected merchant. Not only skilled in business, he had become a pillar of strength for others who had lost faith in themselves. He often shared a story about a boy who nearly gave up, but found strength within his own fear. That story ends with something simple yet profound. Confidence isn't a gift from the heavens. It is the result of every step taken to overcome yourself. No matter how low you start, you can rise, as long as you don't let fear run your life. And so the boy who once feared even the sound of his own voice became a voice of guidance for others. Life doesn't begin when you're skilled or confident. It begins the moment you dare to take the first step through fear. That boy never became someone else. He simply became a braver version of himself, and that was enough to change his whole life. You don't need to be perfect to begin. but you need to begin if you ever want to become strong. So if today you feel lost, small in a vast world, remember this. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward even while trembling. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can spread more positivity together. See you on the next journey, where every story is a reminder. You are worthy of believing in yourself.